Welcome back to the Retro Sports Gamer channel, and this is another Retro Sports Gaming Monthly for October 2018. I have with me two guys that play Tecmo and other retro sports games. We got one of the co-hosts tonight, Troy, GB Land. What's up, Troy?
Hey, glad to be here. I was watching some NHL 94, and now I'm with you guys. It's a good time.
And the other guy with us, if you watch the channel at all, you see him a lot on Monday nights. Also play some NBA Jam. It's DPS.
What is going on, everyone? I was watching some football before this and a little bit of NHL 94 earlier, so pretty good day so far.
Yeah. And the NHL 94 these guys are talking about, I urge everyone who watches this or tunes into this, right now they are streaming live the World Championships. I put a link to the description below. The link went out a little bit late, probably a few days ago. But the best part of the tournament is happening now. It's in Vancouver. It's on the West Coast, so there's still a lot of action to be had. So tune into that. If we can get some live updates later in this, we will do that for you. We're also hoping to catch the end of it ourselves. But what we're here for tonight is to break down some Tecmo Super Bowl tournaments that have happened in the last few months. Two of them that us three have all been part of. And then we'll report results on the New York Tecmo Super Bowl tournament that happened on the same day as Troy's. But first, what we want to talk about is the Tecmo Players Championship and kind of give our personal reports on the tournament. So, Troy, let's start with you.
Sure.
So you had a 6-7 record in the tournament,
And that includes the 2 losses in my playoff series. Let's go ahead and put it out there. I went down there. I had a winning record in group play. Come on, come on.
So talk about your round robin play at that tournament. What you thought about the tournament, the format, the matchups, and what were some of your best wins and worst losses?
Well, I certainly had a really good time. Thanks to Mort for putting it all together. Rode down with Gats and Hank, and that certainly was an adventure getting down there. And we stopped at Cracker Barrel and just trying to make the waitress explain who those 2 guys were and why they were acting the way they were was entertaining. But they're special human beings. We'll leave it at that. But we're glad they were with us. Both were able to come down. Of course, Joey Gatz was the winner of the tournament. But going into my group play, I start out with there's no easy wins in a tournament like that. Everyone there was a player. Start out against Nas, who I think I had played one time online. I had some garbage. He called the matchup Cleveland, Green Bay, and I took Green Bay. I felt they're just a little more balanced. Just hit some crazy offense. Both of us did, but I got a couple turnovers on him. Game went to overtime, and I was able to pull out a tight win there. So I felt like I might be able to beat him 3 out of the 10. So just starting out the tournament there was good. Game 2, I play Mort. He calls Miami and then the Rams. And I take Miami, and I get up on him, and I'm able to hold it off. He starts doing back and B pretty early in the game, and I was very fortunate that he only came down with a couple of them. So had a pretty good start against him. I also got a win over Flo, and he was the first one that really gave me what I thought was a significant disadvantage to him. He took Washington KC in his call, and I took KC. So despite that, he played amazing. Another overtime game. Was able to win it in the end. Got my first loss going against Tom. And this goes to a theme of the day. I couldn't win a game when Brian was anywhere near me. So when he was announcing, something about the timbre of his voice threw me into a frustrated tizzy. I couldn't function. God bless you, Brian, but dang, that was odd. But I mean, that's something to take away, I think, from Tom. You called a matchup that it was a trap matchup. You called Philadelphia, Cincinnati, and of course, you got to take QB Eagles in that, right? They're the superior team on paper, and I think my first pass, I threw an interception, and it just kind of got out of hand from there. You have to be patient with that team. You can't just chuck it everywhere. And I wasn't content to take my 8 to 10 yards at a crack, and I paid the price for it.
Yep.
Had another game on that same station against Kevin Cabarello, a guy that I've beaten a number of times with just in casual play. I think that was my first actual tournament game against him, and I got behind, and it just couldn't do anything. He played a good game. Beat Hank in what felt like a close game. The game that frustrated me the most was Gats. I had the ball in overtime with an excellent condition, Emmitt Smith. I call a pass play. He calls a pass play, and I'm looking at 4th and 10. I punt it. He drives down and scores 3. I was on my own 20. So a guy that I've beaten before, and it would have been a nice win just to say I've beaten him more than once in my life, but couldn't seal the deal on that. I lost a game that was close till the middle of the 4th quarter against Retro Nate. Then he got up on me, I think, a second score, and then I was pushing and pressing at that point because you have to go for it, and the score got away. The one game that I felt like I had no chance at any point, and I felt like I had no business in his class, was Derek Rubel. He's just amazing, and I'm shocked just the way that he took me apart, that he didn't win the whole thing. So I don't know, maybe it's just play style versus other. He was the only guy I couldn't out-tap. By that point, when I played him, I'd played so many games that my hands started cramping up. So if I had one feedback on the tournament as a whole, it may have been a bit long in the tooth as far as the number of games played. Based on what the entry fee was, I don't blame that, trying to provide additional value, but it was a bit long. I think in the end, all of us played over 10 games between the playoff series and the actual group play games, and that was a lot.
Yeah, I think definitely endurance was stamina for this tournament is something that you needed. You weren't the only one that was saying your hands were cramping up. Joey Gatz, who ended up winning the tournament, he's been on deep runs many times before where he's played over 10 games. So he's used to that sort of thing. Some other players, maybe not so much. I felt like, me personally, I was in a sweet spot at one point with the drinking, and then at a certain point in the tournament, it was pretty much I was shot, and that's how it usually goes. But so Troy, you went 6-5, and then you played Thule in the playoffs. So talk a little bit about that.
I forgot to mention that I did take down Thule in group play as well. A guy that he's really the first guy that ever got me into online Tecmo, showed me how to get it hooked up, and is really the only one that really ever responded to me back in the day when I was first getting involved. He calls Tampa Bay Rams, and I take Tampa. Again, just kind of feel like they're a little more balanced top to bottom, and that their secondary can hang with Ellard and everything. So game is close, like it's very low scoring, and then I get a called play. He is going in, probably going to take the lead on me. Call a run to the top. He went to the well one too many times, ended up being a scoop score, and that was all she wrote. He got his revenge, though. Took me down 2-0 in the playoffs. not to take anything away from Thule because he's a tremendous player. He's won his own tournament, I think, twice now. The stamina really played a part between the drive and the cramping. I think I was mentally and physically just not able to, and I didn't have any thought that I was gonna, win the whole tournament. I thought I might get past round one, and there are no gimmies in that tournament, not a single soul. He played well.
Yeah. So 2-0, you go down, and that ends your tournament. So DPS, let's talk a little bit about your experience at the tournament. I know you probably wanted it to go a little bit better for yourself, but you took the challenge knowing that there were some of the best players in Tecmo playing in this tournament. So you went 3-8, I believe. Is that right? In the group play?
Yeah, I think that is right. That sounds right. I know my 3 wins, Flow, Tecmo Bowl, and then I don't know, I think Green Magic, maybe? I don't have it as much as Troy in front of me. I don't know every play of every game that I played that day.
Oh, that was from memory, son.
But
that's burned in here.
that's good. I know, that's good. But Tecmo Bowl, that was a good matchup. I played him actually now about 7 times, I think, and I've beaten him more than lost, which is interesting because he's a great player. But that matchup was a little – I called a lot of matchups in this tournament planning on being the underdog in every one of them and against the best players. So looking back at a lot of those matchups, I guess maybe next time I wouldn't do that. But my plan was to save all the good matchups I had for if I went far. And obviously, I didn't assume I would either, but I wanted to be able to do that if I could, rather than choose them early and win games in the group play. Because everybody was so good anyway, that to me, it really didn't matter who I faced.
DPS, Hank's in the chat. He said you beat him.
Oh, I beat Hank. Hank was my third guy. It wasn't Green Magic. I didn't face Joseph, I don't think. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Or maybe I lost to him. I forget. But I did beat Hank. That's right. That was my my revenge game against Hank after the hardcore tournament loss.
Yeah. Well, Flo and Tecmo Bowl, I mean, you beat both of them. They're probably, 2 of the best players in Chicago up there with Mort. Yeah. Flo was the one who was, and Troy mentioned it, yeah, was stretching the matchup calls more than anybody in the round robin play. Tecmo Bowl, I called, when I played him, I called the matchup. So did you call the matchup versus him or did he call it? Do you remember?
I'm sure that I called the matchup against Flo, and I think that he had the better team from what I remember. I don't remember the exact matchup though, but I won by 3. Wasn't a big win or anything. I had controlled most of the game though, so that was surprising. He did come back, and then I ended up beating him with a field goal to end the game.
I think you beat him Bengals over Bills.
Yes, he chose.
What about the game versus Tecmo Bowl? Because I remember when I was putting in some of the scores that that was like a Seahawks Saints that you won handily. So what happened in that game?
Yeah, I called Seahawks Saints. He basically laughed to the Saints. I figured he would. But the Seahawks are a team I'm comfortable with on offense. Defensively, not necessarily the case. But the Saints, they don't have a lot of firepower on offense, so I figured that I could probably hang in there. And I did. But Tommy Kane went into excellent, and that really changed the game. I just started back in B. That was it. And then he was just, so this is what we're going to do? And I was like, yeah, this is what we're going to do. And and then he went deep to Eric Martin. Same thing. Got a JJ touchdown. Then Tommy Kane again. Same thing. I think we scored. Yeah, I scored there. And I stopped him the next drive, though. I think I got an interception or a fumble. And that's basically how the game ended up going from there.
So what happened in those losses?
Some were closer than others. I don't remember, Troy, what did you beat me by? How much?
3 points, I think.
3?
I thought it was 3 or 4 or something like that.
I felt like Troy had outclassed me in that game. I'd never faced, or I'd faced Troy only once before, and it was years before then. And I didn't think Troy was going to be good then because he just told everyone how bad he was, but he wasn't bad, and he could out tap me. And back then, especially when I faced somebody that would out tap me, it was pretty much game over. I didn't know what to do. So going into this tournament, I had gotten a lot more practice with that from facing Mort, obviously, a lot, and so that's been helpful. But most of these matchups, like I said, I chose a lot of them, and they weren't really lopsided, but they were kind of. I remember specifically, I think it was against Nas, the last game of the group play, and I chose Patriots versus like the Packers or something, and he was like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, we're gonna do that," you know. And then he beat me there, and then I faced Nas in the tournament, the playoffs. And I was like, "Damn, I have to face him right after he just beat me, so there's no in between." And I knew that was gonna not go very well, and it didn't.
So he took care of you 2 games, and then that was it.
Yeah, I saved my favorite matchup call, Bengals Chiefs, for that, and I did it, but he chose Bengals, and I was disappointed. I like the Chiefs a lot too, but I really wanted to go down with the Bengals ship that time.
Yeah.
Didn't.
So would you play at this sort of tournament again?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Personally, I think that it's a good measuring stick. I want to do better than this. I think that I didn't. I was better than I played, but like I said, the matchups. I would probably change it, especially because we have taken to this and talk about how bad I did in group play over and over again. So I figure I want to do better next time in that sense. But I think it's a great measuring stick for it. It's fun. I mean, it was great facing all those guys. That's something I've been looking for forever. It's great to beat somebody 42-0 and then lose in the bracket to somebody who's great every tournament. But
Yeah,
facing guys that are great every single game is actually way more fun, even if I lose.
for sure. All right. So any other thing you want to say about your tournament at the TPC before I go into mine?
No, nothing from me. I'm good.
Okay, so I went 6-5 in round robin play at the Tecmo Players Championship, and that was probably right about at where I thought it was going to be. Um, I started out the tournament versus Green Magic. I feel as a player I'm better than him, but he has my number on play calls. You know, the last few times I've played him in tournaments, he's beat me. I think the last 3 times. But we could play some scrimmage games at D-Men Tap, and it's either a really close game or I'm able to win pretty handily. But he's one of those guys that game plans you, and if he sees enough footage on you, he'll get a win. And that's what he did versus me. First game of the tournament was Packers-Steelers, and I was the Packers. It came down to the last play. I lost by 7, called a run 3. And it looked like I was about to go in, and then some Steelers drone came flying out of nowhere and just put that to an end, and I lost that game. Second game, I went against Tecmo Bowl. One of my strategies going into the tournament was call Eagles everything. Everything I felt like I could call against Eagles, that's what I was going to call, just to make it simpler and not try to use other matchups I like before the playoffs. The game versus Tecmo Bowl went how it usually does versus him. He scores quick, and I get a couple turnovers. Luck's usually bad. I did have a brief moment where I had a chance in this game. I was up 20, or he was up 21-10, and then I got a fumble, and that drive I didn't score on, so that pretty much ended that game, and Tecmo Bowl beat me as he has done many times in the past. The third game was versus Troy, and that's one I really wanted to win because Troy made a comment a while back, like he's like, "I'm better than you at Tecmo." Like it was nothing. I'm like, "Oh, really? He's better than me." He played me in like one or two games online, like the first few games I've played online in a few years. And I think he beat me in one of those. And the other game froze up, and he's like, "Oh, I'm better than you."
I still maintain that.
Yeah. So yeah, I called.
We'll have to do like a best of 5 or something.
Yeah, we'll have to do that. Obviously, the matchup that I called wasn't a strength for you. And then Vincent's in the chat. Hello, Vincent. How's it going? But yeah, I was able to win that one pretty easily. Eagles over Bengals. Troy, he looked uncomfortable with the Eagles for sure.
It certainly woke me up to that fact, and it's something that I'll have to address in my Tecmo game.
That's why I feel like, calling Eagles in matchups, especially if you like to use them, if a player is not used to using them, they can be exposed, because a lot of times you just figure, oh, QB Eagles, I can't give the other guy one of the best players in the game, if not the best. And then, you take that team and you struggle with them because they're a lopsided team. They're not overall, good defense. Their secondary's poor. Their skill players are kind of slow. So there you go. So let me just talk. I'm not going to go through all my games because it gets a little bit more fuzzy after these. But a couple big wins for me. I was able to beat Mort at a tournament, which was good. It was a Packers-Browns matchup that he called. And I believe it went into overtime. And it didn't even need to be that close. But, Mort does what he does at end of games. He clutches it out. I win the coin toss, and I think I just, chuck one up to maybe – it might have been Sterling Sharp or just Haddix. And after that one play, I just kicked a field goal probably on second or third down just to give me another chance if it got blocked. So Vincent says, how am I recovering from the loss? We're going to talk about the full Nelson hardcore after this. Another big win I had was versus Nos. Now, this game I called Dolphins-Eagles, and he went with the Eagles. Basically, Marino was unstoppable in this game. He had 100% completion percentage. Anything I threw up was caught. I mean, some of them, you're against the Eagles secondary. They're calculated risks, but even when it wasn't the best option, they were still catching the ball. I could tell by playing Nos that he was fluid. He was making good decisions, but I did what I needed to do when I played the Eagles, and that's just keep them in front of me, limit them to a field goal or two, and if I could keep scoring, then I'm going to win the game. The other thing going into that one, I know Nos is one of these guys that dives at the run 3 sweep play, so I knew that going in. So a few times I was able to use that to my advantage, knowing that he was looking to do that. Because I think the first tournament I went into not seeing that much is Blono Tecmo, and Tecmo Psycho was just eating me up with that play. I'm like, what is going on here? So that was another big win for me. So yeah, those are probably my 3 biggest. First, Troy, Mort, and Nos. Some of the other games, let me see. Did I lose any that I didn't expect to? Not really, but I ended up playing Kevin in the playoffs, and I played Kevin in the round robin play. And I smoked them with the Eagles-Bills matchup, I like to call. He took the Bills. I was the Eagles. I just think he looked uncomfortable with the Bills. Sometimes when you call these high-tier teams like the Bills or the 49ers, guys just aren't used to using them. But even so, Jim Kelly was throwing picks to the Eagles secondary. So, that was just a bad game for him. I was able to win that one 32-3. So I end up playing Kevin, and I feel pretty good about that he's my first round opponent because I smoked him in round robin. The first game I play him is Lions-Bucks. Wait, no, that was the second game. The first game was Bucks Dolphins. I called that one. Bucks Dolphins. The first half went terribly for me. It was just like one of those nightmare first halves. I was down 19-0. Second half, I hung in there, scored more than he did, but he still won 26-14. So I was like, okay, rebounding, going to the next game. This one was the Lions-Bucks game. The score didn't show how close the game was. At one point of the game, I went up 14-10, and he was marching down in the fourth quarter, and he was in the red zone, and I believe I got him on a third or fourth down, called play. It was the pass two where the two receivers go in and then the other two go deep. And he scrambles out with Vinny Testaverde, and Kevin just made an elite play that I didn't know he was capable of making. So I went for the top guy thinking that he was going to go for the JJ, and he scrambled out and then threw it to the bottom receiver that was wide open, and he ended up scoring a touchdown on that play. So here I think I'm going to get a turnover on downs or limit him to a field goal and still have the lead, and he ends up scoring a touchdown. And then from there, it just spiraled out of control. I think I fumbled or something, and he scored like two more times in that fourth quarter. So after that tournament was over for me. I lost two. So I saved all these matchups for playoffs, and I only got to play two. So that's one thing looking back at this tournament that you don't really need to do that necessarily. Like, you don't need to go as far as Flo was going with his matchup calls. Like, there was, all the Eagles matchups I had covered any game I could have played, all 11 games, if I won every coin toss. And then I had like 25 other matchups, and I only ended up playing two of them. So, that's the way it goes. And I think if we play in this tournament again, we'll just have to alter our matchup pick strategy. And then, there's a thing called trap matchups that we talked about a little bit. And I believe I was put into one of those by Flo. He called Steelers Redskins, and he just smoked me 17-0. I went with the Redskins, believing that they're the better team, but just not comfortable with them. Not quite enough offense to overcome that Steelers defense. And
the secondary is an issue against Rippon and Humphreys.
Yeah, that game was just ugly. Like, looking back on it, I probably should have went with the Steelers, but that's the way it goes sometimes. But I wouldn't really want to use either of those teams otherwise. Maybe the Steelers, but their offense is rough. So that was it for my tournament. I like the Tecmo Players Championship, and it looks like Mort's going to keep on going with it.
That's good.
Yeah, and I think it was needed to have just a high buy-in tournament, because people put so much effort into playing this game online as a hobby, in all these leagues and some of these smaller tournaments. So I think it was time to bust out a high buy-in tournament. I think it went very well. So we'll just recap quickly how the rest of the tournament went. Let me see. Joey Gatsby, Tecmo Bowl. And if you guys didn't see it, it's on the channel. Go towards the end. They were in a best of three, and the last game went to overtime in a game that Tecmo Bowl was winning in by a couple scores. So that one's definitely worth checking out. Third place was Retro Nathan, and I did play him in pool play, and I was very impressed with how he played me, because that was one of those games where the Tecmo gods were trying to give me the game, but he's just stuck with it and ended up beating me by a field goal. So he was able to go deep into this tournament and get a third place, which I thought, looking at the list of players, that was a huge accomplishment for him. And I thought that was a little bit surprising to me, because like Troy said, he thought Tecmo Psycho was going to be up there to win it, and he wasn't even in the top four.
Well,
Nos,
he had an interesting strategy, didn't Tecmo Psycho? Wasn't he strategically tanking some games to get a lower seed?
he was doing something like that. You'd have to ask him. But he ended up getting
Not
up.
against me. He just took me to the woodshed, but against other players, I heard he was trying to get lower to take Gats out round 1 or something.
Yeah, that's what he told me.
I don't think he ended up playing him though.
He didn't. No, like, I forget who he had just lost to. He lost one game, and then he said to me in passing, I was talking to him about that, that he was going to lose the rest of his games and try to take out Gats in round 1 or whoever finished first. And the one play that I saw that I remember distinctly was him versus Tecmo Bowl, and he just on the last play of the game they were tied, and he just put the controller down and let him run the play, and Tecmo Bowl beat him. And it was he just walked away like as the play was happening. I was like, okay, he's really gonna do it, you know. But yeah, I don't know. It didn't work out that way, obviously.
Yeah, there were all sorts of different strategies that people were using in this tournament. The one matchup that I wish we could have captured on stream was Tecmo Psycho versus Nos, because they're both guys that, you know, mastered that dive tackle move. And I just would have loved to see those two guys going at it in the running game.
Be like watching those Japanese circuit wrestlers that just chest chop one another over and over and over and over, dive tackle after dive tackle. There's a reason why they call it getting rubled.
Yeah. I think one of the other surprises to people too is Mort didn't do as well. I mean, he had a lot on his table running the tournament, and he did a great job of keeping it going smoothly. But I think he finished the tournament 6-8, getting eliminated in the first round by Flo after losing 2-1 in the best of 3. So
I felt like I didn't get Mort's best when I played him. I felt like I got B+ Mort. And just to add to the fun, looks like the Boston Red Sox are likely going to win the World Series here, up 5-1. Just hit another solo home run shot, top of the 8th. I think they're going to be the World Series champion for those that care about such things.
Cool. So you guys have anything else to say about the Tecmo Players Championship?
It would be really nice to start to see some of the other top people that have made their way into Madison and some of these other regional tournaments make it in there in the future. The votes come to mind. Guys all the way from the East Coast, like Lou wasn't able to make it. He's a guy that could compete for sure. I think, you know, someone like a Viking Mo and other guys that we see online that are just really solid, that are always in the conversation. Justin Peters comes to mind. He's a really good player. He could do some damage in a tournament like that. Guys that are always in the conversation, would like to see them be able to participate in the future.
Yeah, there's definitely another 50 players that would do well at a tournament like this or can compete, I think. Maybe even 100 across the country. So hopefully more of those people think about playing in a tournament like this. I think Mort even said that he is lowering the buy-in to 100 from 150, and I think that $50 might deter some people, especially if they got to come in from out of town, get a hotel and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes from here. But let's talk about what the tournaments on October 20th and start off with the New York Tecmo tournament. The results on that one, first place was Dave H. Rontoro. Second place was Matt DeGeorge. We say his name a lot. He's
so good.
One of the best players on the East Coast. Third place was Tadeos, and he's a guy that plays in HSTL. He runs a YouTube channel and sometimes puts his games up there and his comments. And then fourth was Mort. So star-studded top 4 there. Didn't since we were at a tournament the same day, I didn't get to catch too much of it. But just from what I've seen, the finals was 49ers and Bills matchup called by the guy who won. And Ron Toro won with the Bills. And the story goes, the way he won the game, it was tied, and he won on the safety, the block safety glitch.
Wow.
The block pass safety glitch is how he won.
That's great.
So then, yeah.
It was an overtime at that point?
All I know was tied. And I didn't get to see the game. I got to see it because the reaction's got to be crazy.
I've lost a game in overtime to that, and that's just the worst.
Oh, yeah, that's got to be one of probably the worst way to lose because it's something that shouldn't even be points. But that glitch seems to be coming up more and more now in these competitive tournaments. And it's surprising to me because I never even knew about what it was until probably the last year or so, and now I've seen it in back-to-back tournaments. It even happened in Tecmo Players Championship. Nuss had that happen versus Joey Gatz and kind of like shifted the momentum. So I don't know. Maybe it's not as rare as we think it is.
See, I thought that was not rare. Like growing up, I thought that happened all the time. So every time I see it not be points, it surprises me by that. So
yeah, I guess you just have to be careful if you're trying to score at the end of the half or the game and you're letting the defenders get too close. Like, you're better off chucking way before.
Well, the one thing you don't want to have happen is you're throwing it near the sideline, because that's when the safety happens. It doesn't go out of the back of the end zone. It goes out to the side, and that's where you get the safety.
Yeah. Okay. So pro tip right there, when you go back and be at the end of the half,
stay between the hash marks.
Yeah, stay between the hash marks so that ball doesn't go bouncing out of bounds for the safety. So yeah, they have a stream. You can check that out. It was New York Tecmo. I forget the exact link, but I can post it in the comments of this video. So let's talk about the tournament that you ran, Troy, the full Nelson hardcore tournament in Green Bay. Believe there was, 20 players there?
Yeah, we had 20 players. We battled some adversity after the national anthem, which was returned in kind with some love from the Tecmo gods. So we had, at one point, 34 people say they were coming. And that had trickled down to about 32, 31 by the day of the tournament. We had some late cancellations. We had some no-shows, and we had some people literally within hours of the tournament say, I can't make it for this reason or whatnot. So some of those reasons were legit. Some of them were really just not prioritizing the commitment. But the 20 of us that were there had a really good time. One of those individuals was the all-time leading rusher of the Green Bay Packers, Amon Green, who I didn't know was coming until the tournament. Moments before the tournament, I didn't know if he was going to actually compete or just hang out. Ended up taking over for someone else who had to leave after 2 games and played pretty well. He got on stream, signed a couple of cartridges for us, so we gave one away as a prize. Sorry, I gave one to my kids. I know that was selfish, but you know what? Sometimes you got to do those things, take advantage of a moment. Big thanks to him for coming out, hanging out. We called a game on the stream together as well to start it out. So both of you were competing for cash prizes at the end. We had a very memorable finals. I haven't had a chance yet to digest / consume the third place game from your stream yet. The day after was tearing down from the tournament. But so DPS, you placed 4th, correct?
That is correct.
I'm just going from memory here. So, and then Tim Poppy was 3rd place. And then the very, very memorable game, not so much in a positive light for Tom, but Nelson 79, who ended up being really the namesake of the tournament, ends up winning the whole thing. If I remember correctly, either Flipper Anderson or Henry Ellard, whoever you had put at the running back position, is zigging, zagging, and you fight for a few extra yards. and you fumble. And the ball actually bounces out of bounds and then back in and is recovered. And the very next play throws it up to Mark Clayton or Duper, one of the two gets the tap, one isolation. The drone dives and misses, and he goes to the house, and that's the end of the game as time expires. So crazy moment to finish a tournament that went just not quite how I expected. Joey Gatz got eliminated in the first round by Troy Evers. Troy Evers had knocked me out in the qualifying tournament we set up when we shot our little mini commercial for it. So I guess he did the tournament a big service. For some reason, Gatz just really struggled with the idea of the format, even though it's really not restrictive. I think he felt like there's only 4 usable plays, and realistically, there's maybe 1 play, maybe 2 at most that you have some risk on. You talk about maybe pass 1 might be the most difficult one if someone's trying to lurch every play. But again, there's risk on the other side. If you get caught in it, now you missed your lurch, and now you have receivers streaking down the field uncovered. So I just don't buy into that the format is broken or anything. Strong players were in it at the end. We saw that with your tournament, Tom, earlier this year, where Flo and Mort were battling out at the end. Is it different? Absolutely. The way the teams are selected is less restrictive. It allows players to pick teams that are easier to identify with. Traditional rules, sure, requires you to be good with every single team, but this tournament was not designed to be the World Championship of Tecmo. It was designed to be a very inclusive and a different format that literally would already exist in the city, state, and all over. So, and I think we accomplished that. We had 2 travelers from out of state that weren't from your group. We had Angry J93, who's playing in the NHL 94 World Championships right now. He did pretty well. He got into he got bumped in his bracket game, but he did well against the group. And then also Justin Peters, who had done very well in group play, and I think he also got bumped by Nelson 79, if memory serves. So, but he was also a strong contender to be there at the end, and Nelson prevailed.
Yeah, DPS, why don't you talk a little bit about your tournament? Because I think this is probably one of your best finishes at a tournament, if not your best. So talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely not close. This is definitely by far the best I've done in a tournament. And going into it, I guess I'd heard you guys talk, and I talked with you about how I don't really consider myself a great hardcore player by any stretch. And I don't really play hardcore. I just pretty much go by the rules. And then, so I don't really understand the Joey Getz complaints either about it. Obviously I'm not Joey Getz. So
and I just want to clarify, he was very gracious with Troy in his loss. He was not, this is more of just after the fact that he is saying he may be retiring from hardcore. We'll see. It's hard to keep away from Tecmo, but continue. I just want to make sure he's not complaining about the tournament or the individual that beat him or anything like that. He gave credit where it was due.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Joey's always been real nice to me, and he's always been real good with that. And they even invited me to go to Iowa Tecmo with them. Right after he had lost, pretty much. So, but I just going back, to me it's just the same game pretty much with a couple extra things added into it. But really, I guess Madison has a couple things. Madison rules have a couple things subtracted out of the regular game. But I went 6-0 in group play. I was just dominating people. It was something, that's for sure. My first 4 games, I had given up 20 points total. Actually, first 5 games, I think. No, I gave up 14 to Troy Evers in my 5th game, and then gave up 0 to Greg Angry J. But that was the hardest game I had, actually. I only beat him 6-0. And he almost scored a touchdown on me early, but he threw a pick with Brister. So, Angry J almost beat me to put me at 5-1. So that was actually the hardest game I had going into the from group play.
Yeah, I was impressed with him not only playing the game at a high level, but listening to some of his commentary afterwards. Like he really understands Tecmo in depth. Like if he keeps coming to these tournaments, he's going to be a top level player, I believe. Like he was 3-3, and he really understands what he's doing, and he's giving good players like top notch games.
Once he gets the muscle memory going and starts to understand like the time JJ game, the burn routes, and how to modify uh, more with the user game, I think he'll really open up things. And right now it's such a new thing to him, so he understands all of the whys. But as far as the timing of making it happen, that's something that he'll have to learn. And on a week prior to where his bread is buttered, NHL '94. He played really in his first, significant competition in the room tournament back in February. And he actually did pretty good in that tournament, having almost no time in the game. So I can't wait to see where he ends up in the next year or two here when it comes to Tecmo. I would think that schedule permitting, that you might see him travel to more and more Tecmo events.
Yeah. So DPS, talk about your playoffs a little bit. You're 6-0, number one seed going in. So what happened?
Yeah, 6-0, number one seed. I think my point differential was something like some huge number, 100 and something points. But just didn't go as expected, I guess. Although, I mean, looking back at it, I haven't had a chance to watch the whole game, but I did watch the closing seconds again. I really wanted to see what exactly happened. I was talking to Joseph after the game, Joseph Green Magic, and maybe I should have called QB sneak here. But anyway, I was down 4 after Nelson 79 had scored, so I needed to score a touchdown to win the game. I had about a minute left, maybe something of that sort. I threw a far pass to Slaughter, got it, got down, threw another pass to Slaughter, got a JJ, stopped at the 3 with 20 seconds left. Called run 1, which was the pitch, the up pitch, and he was all over it. He was playing as Vaughn Johnson, the linebacker 2 of the Saints. I was the Browns, for those that don't know. And so stopped me there. I went backwards 2 yards to the 5. So I had 8 seconds left to choose. I needed a touchdown, one more play. And I went past 4, and he guessed past 4 as well. And I threw it into coverage, and Vaughn Johnson was there, but also I think Brett Maxey came up into the play, and they were both covering Slaughter, and they dropped it. But that was my game to lose, and I lost it.
Yeah,
I played great, but
I don't think your call was bad. You had the red gun, you pass 4 with QB Browns. Then you still have the option to run it in. Mm-hmm. Plus, you have Webster Slaughter, who's a top receiver on that team, especially in that tier with 63 receptions. It's just unfortunate he called the play. I still think you did what you had to do, is throw it to him anyways, even if he was covered, just because of the pass control of QB Browns and Webster Slaughter. It just didn't work out for you there.
Yeah.
But that was really the only play I seen of that game, because I think I was playing right before I walked over to see that. But
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it just didn't go how I wanted it to go. And I mean, that changes the tournament, of course, for me, if I had beat him, but also, for you too, as opposed to facing him in the finals. You face me in the finals, it's a whole different game, So obviously I would have loved to win that game. It was great to be one play away. That's something to look forward to. I want to hopefully continue that going forward in the next ones.
Yeah.
My third place game, I'm not going to take anything away from Tim Poppy, but I even told him before the game, I was pretty much, that was it for me. I had no intention of, really going hard in this game. He chose tier 2, or I chose tier 2 even, which I hadn't chose anything above tier 5 the whole day. That was my thing, was to stay down low, and even mostly tier 6, and choosing the Browns after they chose the Saints, or or the Jets or something of that sort. But yeah, I wanted to have some fun. I wanted to play a good player with a good team and see what that was. And I chose the Eagles, and he chose the Giants. And it was close. I lost by 7. I had to put McMahon in for an 80-yard JJ at the end of the half, which he wasn't excited about to tie the game. And I did remember to pull McMahon out. I lost one game. It might have been actually in the TPC. Maybe I did face Joseph and lost him. I forget, but this was against Joseph where I played McMahon and I threw a JJ at the end of the half and forgot to take him out. And then it was overtime and I lost. That's what it was. It was at the end of the fourth quarter, and I lost because I played McMahon the first play and threw an interception because I forgot to take him back out of the game.
Yeah, that happens. I've done it before too.
So that game was a good game, but I wasn't 100%, and he was a better player. He's good. Tim Poppy, played well. The Giants are too much for QB Eagles, and they're not so good receivers for me.
So yeah, congrats, man! 4th place. It's big.
Way to go!
You've been playing a lot of Tecmo this year. You've obviously made progress, and I'm happy that you cracked the top 4 here. And I think if you keep playing in these tournaments, you'll get a win one of these tournaments one of these days. So
Tom, what's your take on Full Nelson?
Well, first of all, Troy, great job running the tournament, and thank you for running it as the hardcore format and believing in it. Had to make it down if you were going to run the format. I had the tier list updated after the hardcore championship and didn't think I was going to really get to use it in the tournament until the next one. So this was great to give it a run with this tier list, and I think it's pretty much perfect at this point. So it's probably not
felt right. There was a lot of variety of teams being chosen, and I think that proves what you thought as far as where teams were valued.
Yes. So, yeah, there probably won't be any more updates, and I think it went well. You saw teams all over the board. I didn't see too many 49ers Oilers this time. Did you see any of those on stream, Troy?
The game with Amon Green and Troy Evers was that matchup.
Okay. Yeah, because we saw a lot of that at the Hardcore Championship, but not so much this time. And I think removing those two from the teams in Tier 2 with the Eagles, Raiders, Bills, and Giants really makes that an interesting tier now. So it's pretty much split up nice. And then you have like the one team at the very end is the Browns. Like you're not going to be able to lurch them really because QB Browns is a 25 max speed. So if you don't want to play that game at all, you just go with the Browns and just struggle on defense and do everything you can on offense. DPS was successful with that strategy. So yeah, the tournament for me, I went 4-2 in the Swiss play. Started off the tournament against Justin Peters, and I looked at him as probably one of the best 2 or 3 players there. So I didn't want to face him first round, but ended up playing him in a Dolphins-Lions matchup. I was the Lions, he was the Dolphins. The game was back and forth through the third quarter. It was like 10-10, and then he scored a touchdown. So end of the third, beginning of the fourth, I forget what it was. The first shot I take downfield, I was playing conservative all game, threw one up to Mel Gray, and it was a pick. And after that, Justin Peters was flawless on offense in this game, and he scored a touchdown, down 2 scores, lose that game. So didn't start the tournament the way I wanted, but I lost to a great opponent. Next round, this is the only game that was easier for me. I played Aaron from TGFN, but Aaron was actually out tapping me quite a bit in that game. That was surprising. I mean, I wasn't giving it my all, but he was still out tapping me. But I could tell if he put a little bit more effort into playing that he could play this game and be competitive. But he didn't adjust his playbook or anything. So that was really the only game that I had I can win easily. Rest of the games were all tough opponents. Next round, play Hank the Tank. I've played Hank quite a bit this year at tournaments. Actually beat them Lions over Chiefs after a tier 2 call. So that one I haven't played too much, but get a good grasp of Hank's play calling. I know he likes to pass more, and I was able to get that win, but it definitely wasn't easy. I didn't pull away until like the fourth quarter by a couple scores. Otherwise, it was one score game the whole time. Next round, 2-1. I actually play DKS. I believe his name's David.
Keith Shearer.
Yeah. So it was Lions Rams. So I played a lot of Lions. I was successful with the Lions in the Tecmo Super Bowl Hardcore Championship, but this time they're moved up a tier into tier 3 with the Rams. So I'm playing Lions. He chooses Rams. This game is back and forth, but honestly, that shotgun play that has that in on the first receiver.
That's shotgun pass 4, isn't it?
Yeah, shotgun pass 4. And it was a play that I lost to Kumasi in the Tecmo Super Bowl Hardcore Championship. He was just killing me with that automatic JJ or diving catch with that play. Like
that actually exists on the pass 3 version as well. So they both curl in.
Yeah, but that one I feel like for some reason is a little bit more dominant because I couldn't stop it. I knew it was coming. I was calling the play. I was getting my defensive player in position, and I just couldn't do anything. I think Flipper Anderson was in that slot and ended up with 9 catches and 200 and something yards. So it was back and forth game. I got a fumble that looked like it was going to help me pull away in this one. But then it was still a tie game because I couldn't stop him. And then he got me to a 4th down, so credit to him. And then I call a pass play with Mel Gray streaking down. His play style on defense is a little bit different. He was blitzing Kevin Green most of the game. So Mel Gray's wide open. Rodney Pete chucks it up. The throw's on target. It's just dropped. And then after that, I just lose the game by a touchdown. So that was tough. Like that one was one I didn't feel like I should lose, but there really wasn't anything I could do to stop him. He did catch me off guard a little bit with his blitzing style in the first half. But so all in all, he played a great game, and he just took advantage of what Tecmo gave him. And that was, the Lions' pass defense isn't great, and he was just milking some of those auto plays and timing them perfectly. So credit to him. So then I was 2-2, and DPS said he was a little bit worried about my tournament performance at this point. And then my next matchup was no easier versus Phil. Called tier 4, didn't get to call this all day, and he went with the team that I wanted, which was Tampa Bay. And so I ended up using the Broncos. I like the Broncos in that tier Elway with his max speed and passing speed combo. It's really unique, even though his passing control kind of sucks. And then, of course, you got Bobby Humphrey with the 63 MS, able to take advantage of that. And Drew is saying in the chat, you should play a Madden 2004 tournament. We did Madden 2001, but we might get to 2004 sometime next year. But anyways, this game was also back and forth. I believe I was going in for a score to go up a touchdown, and I fumble on that, like in the red zone, or maybe it was like 1 yard line. It was bad.
Get out of bounds, Tom. Get out of bounds.
Yeah. So he drives down the field, and then the fumble's returned in his red zone. So after that, based off how much time's left on the clock, I'm able to score a touchdown and win the game. But it was back and forth. It definitely did not come easy. So I was 3-2. Last round was versus Jason Stasio. Never played him before. Went with another tier 4. And I got the Bucks this time. He went with the Redskins. It was a grind out type of game. A lot of defense in the first half. I was able to get a 10-0 lead at one point, drain a lot of clock with the Tampa Bay offense. But that 10-0 lead didn't go so far when, he saw how much clock it was draining. Like his next drive, he just threw a JJ up to one of those Redskins receivers, jumping catch, touchdown, and then all of a sudden it's 10-7, even though I kind of dominated at a point in the game. So my last drive, I just grinded it all the way down, didn't even try to score really, and just drained the clock out. And there was probably still like a good 4 Tecmo minutes left. So won that game 10-7. Heading into the playoffs, I actually ended up drawing Jason Stasio again for the first round and just playing him. I'm like, oh man, he's a good player. Like he's not the guy I wanted to be playing in the first round of this tournament. So he actually gets to call the tier in this one. He calls tier 5. So this is something I really wasn't thinking about calling too much in the tournament, but he went with it. I've had some success with the Packers lately in tournaments, so I went with the Packers. The reason you go with the Packers, Bob Nelson, the guy the tournament's named after, he's got the running speed that's odd at 69. He could dive in and get you some lurches sometimes if you choose to use them that way. But in that tier with the Falcons, Cowboys, and the Steelers, the Packers are the one team that give you that deep ball option that's legitimate. The other teams, of course, the Falcons have Andre Rison, but the quarterback is what makes it a little bit riskier. Whereas the Magic Man's pretty much dead average, and if he's going good, you're going to get some completions to Sterling Sharp. So this game versus him, I get some luck early, get up 14-0. There's a couple field goals that pretty much would have gave me a chance to put the game away, but one's missed and one's blocked. So he stays within one score and has a chance to actually tie the game, and he throws a pick. I end up winning 21-14, but he's a good player. Next round is against Applejacks. I never played Applejacks before. I get to call the tier. I go tier 5. And he goes with the Falcons, so I get the Packers again. So here I am in Green Bay at the full Nelson using the Packers. This is not something I planned to do, but since that it went so well in the game versus Jason, I'm like, I'm just sticking with the Packers now. And I feel like that's one of the advantages to this format is like you can manipulate it to like use the same team if you feel like they're hot, especially the Packers because they're not necessarily – the most desired team in that tier. It just depends on who you're comfortable with. So I play Applejack's the first guy I played where I feel like his playbook really set him at a disadvantage because he was running the pro form plays with the split backs. And so those plays you can lurch, obviously, nose tackle dive with Bob Nelson, but there was really only one that he had that was dangerous to me, which was the sweep across. And he had Andre Rison in early, but the other 3 plays, one of them was a run up the middle. The other 2 were pass plays. So if he was going in that formation at all, I was going nose tackle because even if he got that sweep off, I would just back up and give him like, the 6-7 yards he would get. Otherwise, he was totally screwed. So, and he even told me after the game, he wasn't used to the format as much, so that might have been a disadvantage to him. So that round I was able to win pretty easily because of my defense, won 17-0. But he still held pretty strong on defense. So then the next round is against Tim Poppy, and tier 5 is the call again. And go Packers Steelers. It's pretty much a defensive battle all the way through. The one thing that changes the game is, of course, the throw to Sterling Sharp, the Magic Man throw.
Always open.
Yeah, I just saw there was a play where he wasn't covered at all, and I knew that the only guy he could get back there was his man defender, which was Woodson, but it still was worth the risk at that point in the game. I felt like he wasn't doing anything on offense that was threatening. So took the chuck, got up a touchdown, pretty much never looked back from there. He got a couple field goals. I got a couple field goals, but that one touchdown was the one that separated it. And Tim Poppy played a great game, but the Steelers just didn't give him enough. And Tim Poppy's playbook was pretty much anti-lurchable completely. So it was good to see that he was well studied on the format. Then I go into the game versus Nelson 79, Levi. Never played Levi before. He calls the tier. Tier 3 is pretty much well-rounded. You can get all sorts of type of teams in that tier. There's 6 teams to choose from. It wasn't going good with the Lions, so I decided to get rid of them for that round, and I go with the Rams. Was having some success in the deep passing game with the Packers, so I'm going to give the Rams a shot, which I did. He goes with the Dolphins, and I guess the Dolphins are one of his favorite teams to use, and I could see why, and I'll talk about that in just a second. The Tecmo gods gave me some luck in the beginning of this game. I had a couple fumbles, was able to score 10 points off of it, but then this is when the game, pretty much took a turn. Nelson 79's strategy was something that I've really never thought about as an actual strategy, but he's one of the best tappers, if not the best at the tournament. So with the Dolphins, because of Dan Marino's passing speed and pass control, he's able to pinpoint passes without guys jumping usually. So with those high-rated receivers, tight end Jim Jensen and Dan Marino, he's going to get some covered catches on the Rams secondary, which he did. The problem is if he gets those covered catches, he taps so fast that he's just throwing me off. And instead of just a covered catch for, a big chunk and I have a chance to play defense, I don't have a chance to play defense because he out-taps me and runs it in the end zone. So credit to him. He played it perfectly. He kept the pressure on all game, and he knew that that was his advantage versus me, and that's what he kept doing to keep himself in the game, because I pretty much had a 1-2 score advantage the whole game, and he didn't have the lead at all until the very last play. So basically what happened –
He spotted you 10 to start. He had 2 fumbles.
Yes, that's what I was saying. The Tecmo gods wanted to give me this game early until they struck down on me at the very end. But I didn't play the game perfectly in the middle. I left at the end of the half, I left some points out there that could have been scored. I could have also scored, 14 to begin with and not 10. So there was some stuff left out there. But basically what happened is I'm up 24-21. I'm just trying to drain the clock. There's like a minute to go. I break a big run with Flipper Anderson. I do what I do. I stay in bounds a little bit too long. I straddle the sideline. I'm right next to it. He fumbles. Ball goes out of bounds. Tecmo does not recognize it as a fumble. He gets the ball with 36 Tecmo seconds left. Next play, he has the 2 shotgun plays. Those are the ones I'm calling, but I can't seem to call the right one the whole game. First play, he just chucks a pass. I forget if it was to Clayton.
I think it was Clayton. I thought he had Duper as a running back.
Yeah, it could have been Clayton or Jensen. I think the last one was Clayton. My defender's back there, the best one I could possibly put back there. I forget if it was Humphrey or Newsom, but they're both at 50 interceptions. He's right there. He gets the covered catch. He out-taps me before the drone can get there. The drone dives and misses, and he just goes in for the end zone, and I lose the game just like that. So definitely
and you throw the controller.
Throw the controller in the air, but shake his hand afterwards. But, yeah, that's one of those games where you hope it happens at Monday night at D-Men Tap and not, the finals of a tournament with money on the line, because
there were literally tens of dollars on the line.
Yeah, that was a tough one to lose, but he played it well, and I'm happy for him to win the tournament. And the great thing about Tecmo is, you see new strategies pop up that you don't think about. I really feel like his strategy is I'm going to throw into coverage against the Rams, and then I'm going to out-tap them and score a touchdown. And there's really there's not a lot of other teams where you could even attempt to do that, but the Dolphins, because of Marino, you're able to do that with accuracy. So good job by Levi. Lost the tournament, and he picks up the full Nelson championship victory.
It was certainly I don't call it a surprise, but once Levi has won our tournament before, not the full Nelson format or the hardcore format, but he's a guy that has outplayed. We talked about Troy Evers before, like playing to level his competition. Nelson always seems to hang with whoever he ends up playing with, like pretty darn well. For some reason, he's a guy that when I've played, I've been able to take him down more times than he takes me down. But when it matters, when it's on the line, he finds a way to pull it out. And the Dolphins are a team you do not want to give him in any tournament.
Yeah, I saw that for sure. And even I did watch some of the game that he played, Justin Peters. That game was back and forth, but Justin Peters had a late fumble on a long drive, and then that pretty much did him in, and he lost that game. So, Levi got some luck when it mattered, but that's what you need in Tecmo for sure.
Yeah, it's hard to be a champion of a tournament when there's talent there without some breaks. I mean, You have to have some breaks go your way.
And then Hank's in the chat saying that if I would have went with the Packers in the finals, I would have won the tournament. I actually thought about that afterwards. I'm like, should I just went with the Packers anyways that he called tier 3 because you could go down? But in retrospect, there's no way defensively he would have killed me with one of those other tier 3 teams. It would have been even worse in the secondary. So,
well, he had at least 3 shotgun plays, didn't he?
He had 2.
Okay.
But I wasn't trying the nose tackle dive because Miami's offensive line is too good, and he had Duper at running back. So if I miss, the nose tackle the Rams sucks. So I'm putting myself like really at risk just trying to do that. So I didn't attempt it, I don't think, all game. But yeah, so that was pretty much it for the full Nelson hardcore. Troy, did you have anything to add about it?
We did give away 3 total consoles. Punky QB won the consolation. So with the 20 participants, we advanced the top 16 into the bracket play, and the remaining 4 players competed for a GamersTech 8-bit HD console as a prize. We also gave away 2 additional of those consoles. Nelson 79 won one, as did Hank the Tank. And then Applejacks won the signed cartridge from Amon Green. So we gave all those away in addition to the cash prizes. And I think I have to do the adding it, but the prize payout was based off of a $420 take in. So, but yeah, top 4 players got cash payouts, and then the prizes we mentioned there. And we'd like to do this again, next year in this format. We may do another tournament of some kind, in the first part of next year, probably the same weekend we ever end up doing our NHL 94 tournament. That was a lot of fun last year. Some guys were able to play some Tecmo in town looking for something to do. But ultimately, the format, I thought it was successful. I think everyone was there, had a good time. There are a number of people that, when they found out they missed out on seeing Amon Green, and I think that they're like, oh man, we should have made this work. One thing I forgot to mention before on the stream here is the Brewers were in the NLCS Game 7, and once that happened, a lot of people, that was part of the prioritization factor we talked about earlier. Oh, we're going to move our plans around, so now I have to not attend the tournament so I can do whatever I need to do so I can go and be involved in this game. Speaking of baseball, the Boston Red Sox have just now won the World Series. So it's official.
Nice. Wrong Sox hat on tonight.
Yeah, you just got to paint it or something. So, yeah, but it was a fun tournament. I think we'll do the format again. This is not a guarantee. We are looking to do an engraved a trophy much in the style of the Lord Manley's Cup, the mini one that we do. We want to get Levi's name engraved on that, and trying to work with Charlie Bravo to make that happen, so that the next time we have an event and he's there, he can be presented with that. That's a goal. We haven't confirmed if we can do that, but Charlie's been pretty awesome in the past on that. So,
yeah, the other thing I wanted to say is when we were in Green Bay for the NHL 94 tournament, the Edge VR wasn't open yet. It was kind of raw, but now it's a nice facility. It's a really great place to have a tournament. That back room's pretty much perfect for, at least a 30, maybe even 40 player tournament. And then they have tons of room on the side now. So if you did ever have something bigger, you could put a bunch of stuff over there. They were selling beers, pizzas, and stuff. So it's a really great venue to have a tournament. I'm glad to see where it has come since the first time we were there.
Well, when Dallaire was one of the guys that couldn't show up, but he still stepped up with the pizza sponsorship. So everyone that wanted pizza got it. So that was nice of them. And it wasn't bad. They have their own pizza oven there, and it's like a premium frozen pizza style. Comes out pretty tasty. And they had a decent selection of adult beverages there. Not officially like a bar or anything like that, but they had plenty of cold ones in bottle or cans, and enough variety to satisfy most palates. So we were very happy to work with them again. People got 10% off of the VR experiences there, which a number of players, when they were done, moved on to that and got a chance to experience some of that as well. So we think the venue is really good for what we try to put on. We're not looking to put on 200-person tournaments. We're just trying to attract those that want to be a part of the fun. If they're in town or from far away, we're going to try to give everyone an equal experience. If you're the worst player or the best player, we hope you have fun. That's our goal.
Yeah. It was a good time.
Glad you guys liked it.
It was really good. Great time.
Thanks for coming, both of you.
No problem. So there are some more Tecmo Super Bowl tournaments coming up to end this year out. Not so sure about the other retro sports games. We'll probably do some monthly stuff at D-Men Tap. Tomorrow, we're doing Basketball Classics again on Steam. That's a retro-inspired Tecmo Super Bowl, Tecmo NBA basketball type game. That's going to be a lot of fun. So if you're watching this now, tune in tomorrow night. We're doing a tournament in that game, and we're going to warm up and play for a small prize. I think $5 entry will do justice. But the game's built to where most games are close. They built the game to be like Tecmo Super Bowl, but it's a basketball style game. So basically what the guy says, what the developers say is Tecmo NBA basketball left something for them to be desired. They created this game, and I think they did an excellent job. You're going to see that game tomorrow.
What's the name of it again?
Basketball Classics. Namo Gammo is actually in the chat right now. That is one of the developers. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Is that on Steam?
It is on Steam.
Might have to check that out.
Yeah, check it out. Check it out tomorrow night. We might have some surprises for you. So you definitely don't want to miss that one. So the Tecmo Super Bowl tournament's coming up. There's the one next weekend in Iowa. That one's pretty much been an annual event for a while. You got some top players going out there. DPS, are you going to that tournament?
No, unfortunately, I can't go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I really want it. Hank and Gats invited me. I told them more about going and everything, and then I just couldn't make it happen.
Did Mort go to that RBI tournament?
In Nebraska? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Kidding, Troy, when you said that.
You're joshing me. All right, I see what you did. Okay. There's also, I think this is confirmed now, the November 17th Tecmo Milwaukee. Mort has stepped in to help, and it sounds like a tournament is going to be happening there at Boomers in Milwaukee.
Yeah, Mort's stepping up with some big prizes there. I think one of the most attractive ones for first place, the Tecmo Players Championship entry. So if that's going to cost you $100, that's a nice thing to throw in. So yeah, that was surprising to me. But we thought the tournament was probably going to happen anyways. But there's a lot of players in Wisconsin, obviously, and group of people want to make sure that the tournament or something keeps happening in November. So,
well, Milwaukee's a big city. You've got a lot of people that go to the other tournaments in and around the state. But when that tournament was originally said we're not going to do it anymore, a lot of people said, hey, we really want this to continue. And so I think it's just good for those that live in that area that they're going to continue having tournaments at least for this year. And I think that, especially the people that live in that area are going to be appreciative of that.
Yep. And so there's that one. And then the one after that is in Connecticut, December 1st. That's a tournament that has been around now for a while. Last year, I think they had over 50 players. So, look to go to that tournament if you're on the East Coast. I'm sure some of the guys we just reported on in the New York Tecmo tournament will be going to that one as well. And then this is maybe the last tournament of the year. We have to see if any other tournaments pop up. But the tournament that I'm throwing, the Equalizer tournament, we did the one last year at Michael Anthony's in October of last year. And the Equalizer is a unique format. I can't sell enough that if you're like a middle of the road or even beginner player, this gives you the best chance to possibly win a tournament because you're not put in a group with a number one seed that's probably going to smoke most of the other guys. You're put in a group with equal players. So group 4 is going to have the most beginner players. Group 1 is going to have the top talent elite players. And basically, if you do well in your group, we do a team draft. So you can get a team advantage versus some of these better players later on. And since it's only single elimination and we're playing Tecmo Super Bowl, anything could happen. Any guy can make a run in this tournament. So that's what I would sell it on the most. It's $20. You can PayPal me or go on the website, retrosportsgamer.net, which it just launched, which I'll talk about that more later in detail when I have some time. But you could register on the website as well. It's retrosportsgamer.net. But yeah, that's, like I said, the Equalizer, it's only a 20-player tournament, so it's smaller. It's more intimate. You get to hang out with people. The food's pretty cheap at Michael Anthony's. They got good beer. So I recommend that one to everyone. So hopefully some of the guys come from Wisconsin and the surrounding states. We know that we'll probably be rolling pretty deep from Chicago already. Maybe even Troy will make it out. We'll see.
It'll be a rough it'll be a slim chance for me personally because I have made it out to 2 Chicago tournaments this year already. I will certainly put it on the calendar, but I think it'll be pretty tough without unless I'm there announcing it. We'll work on that though.
Yeah,
we'll work on it.
Yeah, and I think the D-Men Tap Tecmo League that we're doing on Mondays is just an extension of what this tournament is. So basically, if you guys don't know, the D-Men Tap Tecmo League, guys are given a team based off their skill within a certain tier. So like Mort has the worst team in the game, the Colts. I have the Jets. DPS has the Cowboys. But then other guys in the league have the 49ers, the Giants, the Oilers. And that gives them a chance to win because their skill's not as good. What we've seen so far through about a quarter, 2 or a third of the season is the best players are still on top even with the lesser teams. But we saw at least 1 or 2 big upsets because of the team advantage.
You guys have done a tremendous job fostering new players into the Tecmo fold, getting them to get reintroduced to the game in a way that where they don't get absolutely steamrolled and then turned off, and then we never hear from them again. You do a great job keeping them plugged in.
Yeah, that's happened, because me and Mort have been at it at least for, a year and a half, pushing 2 years now, just trying to get people involved, wanting to play. And we've had that early on happen where guys have seen the meetup group that Phil does from D-Men Tap. They come out, we tell them, no, you can't do this while you play, you can't do that. And then we just kill them, and then we don't see them again. It's happened a few times, so we don't want to see that happen anymore. So that's why, we've came up with some of these ideas to make it more equal, because we love to play no matter what. Even if we feel like there's a team disadvantage, we still feel like, most of us, we can win anyways. So, and Mort, he honestly thinks he's going to win the league with the Colts, and he might do it. I wouldn't doubt him.
Does he have a winning record yet with the Colts yet?
No, he's 4-4, but
at least he's not under 500.
Yeah, I'm 5-1 on top of the league, but my one loss is to Mort and the Colts. So,
wow, shame.
Can't underestimate him.
But you're a better Tecmo player than me, though, aren't you?
Yes. You would be about 2-5 in the league right now.
Yeah, I'm wondering who would you assign if I was in the league? Who would you assign to me? The Packers?
No. You would have been probably in tier 4. You would have had to choose one of those teams.
Like the Seahawks?
No, the Seahawks would have been even too low for you. You would have a chance of like the Falcons, the Steelers, the Saints, the Cardinals, those teams.
Gotcha.
So the other thing we're going to be doing on Monday nights, starting this week as well, not only will the D-Men Tap League be going, but we're going to be taking requests to play on the Nintendo Switch online. You could join the Retro Sports League. While you're watching us, we'll tell you what the Switch code is. You could play us. We enter it into the Retro Sports League standings. The Switch gives us that ability to do that, to play you live as we're playing games. So it's going to make it a little bit more interactive, a little bit more fun. And then it gives us a variety of games to play, ice hockey and Tecmo Bowl being the top 2. But they also have like dodgeball, tennis, baseball, soccer that we could play on NES Online on the Switch.
I want to give a quick update on the King of 94 tournament. They are in the Sega Genesis Finals. Corbett KB is taking on Angry J 93.
Did they just start it?
Yes.
Okay, so I think this is a perfect segue to stop the Retro Sports Gaming Monthly. I put the link to the NHL 94 King of 94 3 link to the stream. Click that link, watch it. Angry Jay's in the finals right now versus Corbett, and Corbett was in a huge matchup versus EA. I promise you it's going to be a good time. Click the link, watch the finals, and we'll see you back next month with another Retro Sports Gaming Monthly, and we'll be talking to Namo Gamo next Sunday about basketball classics with hopefully DPS and some of the other guys that play the game tomorrow. So, Troy, DPS, thank you for joining tonight and talking about the tournaments that we were just part of.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Be good, everyone.
All right. Take care. We'll see you later.
Adios.